Hello and welcome to the movie podcast at TIFF 50. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me is Shahbaz.
Hey.
And Anthony.
What's up?
This is our official first TIFF 50 review, and I think we're starting very, very high on this. We're not high. The movie, the positivity.
Oh, man, don't tell me who's not high.
Oh, no.
Welcome to Toronto, where there's more weed stores than Starbucks here.
It's true. I think that's what they wanted to change the license plate to here.
Yeah, just a big, instead of a maple leaf, it's like the giant marijuana leaf in the middle.
It's a bud? Yeah. It's yours to discover, yours to smoke.
Yours to get high.
Take that if you want, province of Ontario. We are at TIFF. We are so happy to be here for another year. This is, I think, our 5th year being accredited for what I think is the best festival in the world, because it's the one that we always go to, and it's, not too far from us. So by those standards, we're really high on it. But it's an absolute honor to be here. We have so many incredible interviews and reviews coming your way over the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, maybe however long that it takes us to get all of these reviews out. But today we are talking all about Sentimental Value, which is from Joachim, who you'll know from his last film, The Worst Person in the World, who we're getting, Renate Reinsve back in this film after they worked together on their last film. And we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be a little bit of a different review for us. So obviously we're going to be giving our thoughts. We'll be staying spoiler free, as we always do here on the movie podcast. But we're not really going to be giving our final recommendation. When we tell you to go see it in theater, we'll tell you to go see it in the festival if you can get tickets. It's a little difficult to do so at this year's festival, but we will obviously be giving our full thoughts on the film. And then once this film does get a release date, we will obviously follow up on our social posts, giving you our thoughts and talk about it in future main episodes. But we want to talk all about this film. Right out of the gates, I think, we've been really lucky with some incredible films at TIFF 50. This is a banner year for the Toronto International Film Festival, and it's an honor for us to be part of it in a very small way. So we'll have some really fun stuff coming up. We're hopefully going to be doing a lot of interviews, like I said, but maybe for this very movie, again, when it comes to film festivals, just complete transparency on our side. We don't always know what we're going to be getting when it comes to interviews and, that kind of access far in advance. So as we know more, obviously stay focused on our socials. Everything you need to know is in the show notes below, where you can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok. You'll see all of the fun stuff that we get up to. But let's get right into Sentimental Value. I'm going to give you just a little tease of what this film is based on the official TIFF 50 description of the film, just because, again, there's no trailers, there's no really anything out there for this movie yet, but we're going to tell you all about it in just a second. So, as I pull this up here, sisters Nora and Agnes reunite with their estranged father, the charismatic Gustav, a once renowned director who offers stage actress Nora a role in what he hopes will be his comeback film. When Nora turns it down, she soon discovers he has given her part to an eager young Hollywood star, who is played in this film by Elle Fanning. Suddenly, the two sisters must navigate their complicated relationship with their father and deal with an American star dropped right into the middle of their complex family dynamics. Shay, I would love for you to start us off. Give us your first reaction to Sentimental Value.
Sentimental Value, it's absolutely gorgeous. It has some of the most phenomenal acting that I think I've seen in this entire year, especially coming from someone like Stellan Skarsgård, who he's always just phenomenal in whatever he does. But in this movie, I there's a little bit of excitement that I had, because as he came on screen, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've actually properly heard him speak, in Norwegian before. I don't think I've actually properly heard him, maybe here and there in interviews or something, but I've never watched a movie where he's not going to be speaking English. So it was such a reintroduction to that actor. It was such a reintroduction to what he can do. And you see a lot of his comfort just slipping into the role. And the character that he's playing is someone that I don't know if you're supposed to love him. I don't know if you're supposed to hate him. I kind of was just more intrigued by him. And a lot of this film reminded me a little bit of something that we watched, I want to say it was earlier this year, called Seven Veils with Amanda Seyfried. There's a lot of visual elements that really kind of brought me back to that film. But I think the one word that really stuck with me throughout this entire film was the word stubborn. And I think about how the movie deals with this house. That's been there, for so many years, and it has this one crack in it, and it still stands strong and it doesn't move. And you look at the character of the father, who has cracks within himself, doesn't move, doesn't change. And you have all these external factors around them that are trying to deal with it and try to make the best of what they're given. And when you see all that kind of come together in this melting pot of a film, it all plays out so beautifully. And it's the performances that you get to see. It's the subtlety of the comedy that you get to see as well. But overall, it's just these human emotions that you get to live through. There are moments in this movie that I was getting really, really emotional in, because these performances are really drawing you in. The beginning of this film, I was laughing really hard in, because again, it was this level of discomfort that I was feeling of, oh my God, I'm getting anxiety about what's happening on screen, but I really just have to go with it. But then you also fall in love with the behind the scenes of the film world, because again, it's about someone wanting to make a movie. You're getting to see that whole process of finding the actor, finding that story, and finding a way to get it out there. You're seeing people struggle with their lives. And I think when you're seeing all these characters kind of happen and going through their emotions, you can't help but just fall in love with what the world is showing you. And I love watching movies from different parts of the world, because the storytelling is different, the directing styles are different, and you get to really see a lot more patience being developed while watching this kind of movie. And that's what I loved so much about it. You get amazing characters like Renata. Is it Renata? How would you pronounce it?
Renata. Yeah.
Renata. She's absolutely fantastic. Then you have Elle Fanning, who is just having an amazing year. It feels like she's coming out with so many great performances. I felt for her. Like I knew that it was Elle Fanning, and she's kind of playing maybe like an Elle Fanning character, but you really get sucked into the world that she's being drawn into. And she's really, as someone who's not from Norway, who's really being sucked into this world and kind of taken along for the ride of understanding the cultural differences. There's a lot about this movie I loved, and there's a lot about how that plays out that really, really stuck with me. But again, I think when I left this film, I walked away with going like, it feels like this movie's about being stubborn in the best of ways and the worst of ways, and almost like the consequences of those actions that kind of come out of it.
I don't often say this right out of the gates when we're doing reviews and things like that, but I think this is my favorite movie this year. Like, not even kidding you. The more and more I've been thinking about this film, the more it's just been lingering in my mind. I am just in love with the world that this film created, and what Joachim did in this world, because it's just there's just such a realness to these characters. And it's funny. I was like, man, I feel like I've seen Stellan play a director before, and I was racking my brain trying to find it. And then I remembered, I'm like, oh my God, he played an over-the-top eccentric director in the show Entourage, where he was like at battle with like Vinny Chase over like this, like that Smoke Jumpers movie that they were doing. And I was like, oh my God. So like it came to me while watching this film, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just thinking about his, being a director in Entourage. But Stellan Skarsgård gets to showcase so many different shades to who he is, because he's so likable in this film. But you see from the perspective of his kids that he is a villain to them. He is somebody who is not there for them. And what really was kind of breaking my brain a little bit while watching this film was that this almost feels like two different movies going on at the same time. We have Stellan Skarsgård's character wanting to make a film, wanting to go, make a comeback film, and, work with Elle Fanning's character into, the whole side of them developing this film together. And then you have the story of his daughters, who are trying to grapple with even just the mere existence of this man and trying to be in the same room with him. And I think what's really fun with like Nora and Agnes, like the two sisters here, is that they obviously are at different stages of their, I guess okayness with being in the same room with their father and just with him being around. And I think that's what's really, that was really the story that was just really driving this movie for me for so long, where it's just like, I think it's so relatable in that sense, because I think all of us have either people in their lives who are always going to be their crux or their weakness or just something that they'll have to overcome. and to see how they go on their journey in this film and how Stellan's kind of continuing to go in his path and still kind of focus on himself. It's really beautiful. And I think the story that this film is telling you, especially the way it kind of bookends, it's really magnificent. And I think it just immediately has made me want to watch The Worst Person in the World, because I can only imagine how incredible it is. And it's been one that's been on my list forever. And now it's just like, I need to watch this movie.
Yeah, I think this movie really dives into the dynamics of a family that's gone through trauma, kids who are worried about how their parents have affected their lives in the future, and if they become like their parents. I think there's a lot of that type of storytelling happening in this movie. And I think it's done in such a subtle way, but it's done in a calming way that you feel it. You like, oh, I could clearly see that she's very much like her father. You know, there like there's that stubbornness, but there's an almost, like, especially for the daughters in this movie, when they see their dad for the first time in a long time, you know, like they want to see him, even though they hate him, you know, like they still weren't like get out of the house type of thing. Like it was just like they were still wanting to be that family that this. And I think one of the most beautiful sequences is that beginning sequence of what this house represented and the montage of it, the trauma that's happening in this house as it goes through the different years and stages. And it's just told very, very flawlessly. Like it just has this visualness that you, within like, 5 minutes of seeing the sequence, you know what this story's about. So there's a lot of that thing. And I think for kids, or parents and kids of parents, they'll find a connection in that sense. I think it's just the subtleness of just the story. It's not a big grand story. It's just something small, but it has such an impact. It has such a large impact. And I really, really love the ending because it all leads to this beautiful ending, and it's such a well paid off ending. I think it made me happy. It's not something that was sad or tragic. It was just like, as many cracks as this house has, we could still fix it. And I think that was like that payoff. I just went, man, that's such a great story. It's so, and it's so small, and it felt, and I kept thinking of like Decision to Leave, and I kept thinking of Anatomy of a Fall, and like these films that are from these different parts of the world, and how you could tell such an intricate story but still be simple at the end, like having this simple ending. It's just so beautiful. I was really, really connected with this film. I think Stellan was, I think it's his best performance ever. Like I just, there's this loneliness in his,
he's getting nominated.
Loneliness to his character. There are parts of this story where you just feel like he is remembering his life, because there's a tragic event that happens to him when he's a kid, how he passes this on to his family. It's like, it's so intricate in how the everything's happens. It's just really, really beautiful story. I really, really enjoyed it.
It's really interesting how meta this film could feel as well, because even within the film itself, they're telling a film, and he's kind of, it's like, oh, like this is impacting his own life, but then the fact that this is about a film, so you kind of have a few different layers to how this movie's being told. And I think whenever we're watching a movie or a show about a movie, that also there's just like that little thing to us where it's like, like it's about this world. And I think how interesting it is how you're even getting the dynamics of like you have a director who has made some incredible films who may not be known worldwide, but, or not, I won't say worldwide, I should say more on like in North America, but you have him even dealing with the Hollywood system and Netflix and those kind of things. And I do want to, Renate, I think, again, it was one of those things I was like, man, like, where did I just see her in? We just saw her in A Different Man, who I think is just a phenomenal film. And she's so great in that. And that was her Hollywood debut film, because obviously she wasn't making films here. So I could only imagine the films that we are going to see her go on and do. I think she's so phenomenal. And, as we gave her flowers already with Elle Fanning, who I think is dropped into this movie so eloquently, who is exactly the type of character that she's playing it so, I think, just truthfully, because yeah, like you said, Shay, like it feels like it's Elle Fanning playing almost like a version of herself, because she obviously wants to work with this director. So it was really fun to see that. And like, again, just to bring it back how you said, Anthony, I think the bookends of this film are just beautiful, and to see how the house I think just is evolves throughout the course of this film, and kind of where we see things at the end. It's really is beautiful, and I think it really is the film to beat at TIFF this year. And Jesus Christ, why did we have to watch it as one of our first movies, and why is this our first review coming out? Because we're setting the bar really high. But if you are able to get to TIFF and to watch this film, it's definitely something that you should, because it is fantastic, and I'm only going to be thinking about it throughout the rest of the festival and definitely into the end of the year. But definitely, I want to open it up again. A little bit of a different ending for us, because we're not really giving a full, recap. But if any of you want to obviously join and give a final thought for the film, please take the floor.
I had a really good time with this movie. I think there's so much that you can take away from it. It definitely is a little bit longer, so be prepared for that. It is a longer film, but you fall in love with the characters, you fall in love with the journey that they're on, and you just kind of get to see a lot more about that side of the world that maybe you're not so familiar with. I think the beauty of getting to shoot somewhere like that is it looks different, and I think that's one of the things that you kind of look forward to. You look forward to when you travel somewhere, you want to feel like you're in a different spot. With this movie, it felt like I got to travel, not only into these people's lives, but, everywhere these people are going. And it's just, I don't know, it sticks with you. There's a moment on the beach in this film that reminded me a lot of the movie Babylon and some of the beauty that film kind of brought. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is very like old school Hollywood filmmaking. Like, you're really just lost in it. And I don't know. I'm very floored by it. I really enjoyed my time in this movie, and I think it's going to be one of those films that people are talking about for a long, long time. And the fact that it got such an ovation at Cannes as well, it totally makes sense.
Also, Stellan Skarsgård, best film. Yes, I would say this is up there with them. Bootstrap Bill, Pirates of the Caribbean. Come on, guys, come on. No, I'm kidding. He's always amazing, and this you really get to see. Like I said at the top of our review, there's some different shades to him where he's a little bit cheeky. He's a little bit, he could be a villain in some minds, but he's also, at the end of the day, he's an artist, and he just wants to keep creating in a world that makes it very hard to do so. And I think the exploration of art and the relationship with his daughters is just magnificent.
This is a movie that you're going to see in the Criterion collection. You just know it's like, this is going to be a Criterion film one day, probably right away. Honestly, it's one of those films that just leaves an impact on your soul, because there's so much. Again, you might not live in this country, but there's so many relatable things to it. And for us, like, just seeing a director who's making a movie about his family that had tragedy in it, and he's trying to tell a story and get his daughter to act. It's like, here we go. It's already creating this pot of what's going to happen. And you just sit and you watch and you learn and you hope for a fantastic ending. And it has a fantastic ending. I really, really enjoyed this film. I really loved it.
Well, that's all we got for you today at the Movie Podcast. Of course, we're just starting TIFF 50. There's a lot more movies, a lot more reviews, a lot more sleepless days and nights to come from us. But if you want to stay up to date with everything that we have going on, please make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd. That is the best way to stay up to date with all of the fun stuff that we have coming your way. Anthony mentioned Criterion. Well, maybe we have some more happening at TIFF with that. You're just going to have to wait and see. But again, what a start to the festival. We have lots more coming your way. Thank you for being on this journey with us. This is our 5th TIFF, officially, working as the Movie Podcast. So this is a huge deal for us, and hopefully many, many more to come. Until then, that was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.